We just have a slide here in front of one of our monitors that just says, "Will begin shortly."
Oh,
yeah.
The drama of
Yeah.
a Joe Biden speech.
It's going to be good.
Will he be awake for it?
Right.
Will he see a squirrel that no one else sees run by and distract him? Will he get through a sentence?
Will he call Ukrainians Iranians? We don't know.
We don't know.
But he's going to announce something very, very big and important. Very big.
Very big.
Very big.
This is something that has been demanded by both the left and the right, I would say. Mm-hmm. This idea of...
And I'm for it. At the same time, I'm against it. I'm for it if we do one thing first, and that's open up our own oil fields. Supply our own oil. Be energy independent, which we could do overnight.
Right. Like having a two-parter here is not a crazy thing to ask for.
No.
Like if you were to say, you know what, I'm going to get rid of all the food, all the junk food in the house. I don't want any more. I keep eating all this junk food. We're going to get rid of all the food in the house. And then you don't replace it with food. It's not necessarily a good change, not a healthy choice.
Not a good idea.
Right. So what you want to do is replace it with maybe healthier food.
Yes.
Right? And then that would be a good improvement. Just throwing all the food out in your house, not a good idea. That seems to be the path that we're on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are Republicans going to do when the price of a tank of gas is what a price of tank of gas is going to cost here in the next few days and probably for a very long time? What are they going to say when they were the ones pushing for this oil shutoff with Russia without articulating part two? Actually, it should be part one. He should say today, this is what the president should come out and say. Look, we all know, we're watching the video from Ukraine, and it's really bad. It's really bad. And so we're sitting here between a rock and a hard place, especially me. And I think people would actually respect him for this, especially me, because as you know, I believe global warming is an existential threat to the safety of everyone in the entire world. And I have taken massive steps to shut down the fossil fuel industry. And we cannot go back on that. However, this is a short-term problem. But this short-term problem is going to cost the American people too high of a price. So I'm sitting here and I look at three options. Do nothing, continue to fund the war with Russia while they're slaughtering people in Ukraine. That's not acceptable to me. Cut us off of Russian oil and make the price of gas, groceries, everything go sky high. That's not acceptable to me. I got to find a way to balance both, and the only way to do it is to reverse all of the things that I have done, take the regulations off the oil industry temporarily. Understand this is a temporary movement because I believe that global warming is going to be the death of all of us. So I am removing those restrictions today. I am removing anything that hinders the oil industry from getting oil and gas to the American people and, quite honestly, to Europe. Because if I can promise them gas, they will shut off the gas and oil from Russia, and then we win. So temporarily, that's what I'm going to do. I would be for that. I would say there's presidential action. There's presidential action.
Yeah, to give you an illustration of how this is done, Elon Musk yesterday. I hate to say it, but we need to increase oil and gas output immediately. Extraordinary times demand extraordinary measures. Obviously, this would negatively affect Tesla, but sustainable energy solutions simply cannot react instantaneously to make up for Russian oil and gas exports. Now, here's a guy who is, again, building spaceships to escape global warming. He started an electric car company. He really cares about global warming, but he's also being honest and realistic and not wanting to punish the American people because of his long-term ideology and beliefs. And that's the opposite of what Joe Biden seems to want to do.
The global warming thing is a lie. To think that Joe Biden and his people are making this decision based on global warming is a lie. It's a lie. Because if you did, you wouldn't be buying the dirty oil from Russia. You wouldn't be buying it from Iran. It is clearly much better to have it pulled from here than it is to have it pulled over there. It is much better for the environment.
I think their argument to that would be, if we lock it in here, then we are going to be taking steps in the wrong direction. Where if we take a temporary purchase from Iran or Venezuela, it's just a Band-Aid on this issue. They don't want to solve the issue.
Right.
They want to make it difficult for you to buy gas.
Correct.
In the long term.
But they also, if you are truly representing people, and you saw, look, we see the suffering of the Ukrainian people. Do you know Americans are on the edge right now? They're on the edge. Average Americans cannot afford this kind of gasoline. No. So they're having to make tough choices. What do they do? Well, if you see the suffering in Ukraine, you also have 350 million people here in America. You could cause all kinds of problems, including food shortages next year, because we can't get natural gas to make fertilizer. Where are all the electric tractors? Where do we have a bunch of electric tractors? Anybody doing that?
Not yet.
Yeah. So we're going to have food shortages, and we know we're having food shortages already. We know that today that they're coming. Why would you make it worse? You don't care about people. If you really truly believe that you can't do this, you have to punish America and reward Russia or Iran or Saudi Arabia or Venezuela, you're A, an idiot, B, you don't care about people. I don't care what you say. You don't care about people, and you certainly don't care about the United States of America. And that's what I think is really driving this policy. They don't care. It's beyond that. They despise the United States of America, and this will only hasten our end. Gas went up 10 cents last night.
Highest rise in a week in history.
Right. We find out today that we're cutting off how much oil from Russia?
It's, I think, 5% of the global 5% of the global supply, or 7% of the global supply. I mean, again, like, that doesn't seem like a ton, but when you need to replace it, it can make things very difficult.
Well, you know what it's like. Your inflation is 10% right now. They say 7.5. That's your inflation rate. I don't know how are things going for you. Do you notice that 10% missing?
So, you're not going to get the oil out of the ground from the Democrats. You know they're not going to do that. So, do you take this step anyway? Do you cut off Russian oil because punishing Russia is something that should be done based on what they are doing
at the
in Ukraine?
expense of the United States of America? No, I don't. Look, here's the thing. I really feel for the Ukrainian people, but this might be the death of us. This really, truly might be the death of us. It's coming, and it's coming quicker and quicker. I think it will come before the election. I could be wrong. And if it doesn't happen before the election, I can guarantee you today the Democrats are going to scream fraud, that it's a stolen election if Republicans win. They will do everything times 10 that they've accused Donald Trump of doing, and there will be riots in the streets. They will riot in the streets, and nothing will happen to them. And that's just going to push us over the brink even more. I'm sorry, you cannot print money like we have printed, then cut off the oil supply. Look, oil is everything. We literally don't get the vegetables to the table without oil in like 100 different ways. So saying that we're going to just cut back and we're all going to have to wear a sweater. This is beyond wearing a sweater. This is way beyond wearing a sweater, like Jimmy Carter said in the 1970s. This is the crippling of the economy. You cannot make things if you don't have oil. Gee, and who does that benefit? Let's see. If you can't make things, then and people can't drive around, then the demand is less. Then they won't have things to buy. We'll have plenty of money, but nothing our money can buy.
Do you think we know they're not going to do what we want them to do, right?
No.
They're not going to open up, show the power of the United States. We're going to ignore much of our own resources. Is there any chance you think Biden comes out and says, and throws a bone at that argument and says, you know what? We did shut down drilling in this area, We're going to open it back up for the time being.
No chance.
He
will say he's going to open up the strategic oil reserves,
which is a terrible idea.
Horrible.
Legitimately terrible.
You are on the eve of possible World War III. I'm not saying that. That's what pundits are saying.
But I mean, it's obviously true.
Yes.
Right? Like they're one country away.
Yes.
From a NATO
correct
attack, and
anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
Anything
doesn't mean it's likely, but it's
correct.
Very much more possible now than it was a month ago.
So that's really exciting to know.
So you don't get rid of your oil.
You don't. The strategic oil reserve is for a situation just like this. That if you have to go to war and you don't have the oil and it's going to cripple everything at home, imagine trying to fill the tanks of the fleet. Okay? Aircraft, tanks, everything else. Independently having to fill those tanks for a war. And the price of gasoline here in America. Gee, how long would we last? How long would we be making new airplanes? New tanks, new ships? This is the road to destruction. But we'll see what he has to say. He's now, 45 minutes late for his...
He's never on time for these things. Why do they even announce them? Well, why not just let him stumble down in his PJs whenever he gets ready?